Okay, picture this. Two people living in the exact same country, dealing with the exact same economy. Let's say they both decide to take $1,000 and put it straight into the market. Historically, if we're looking at something like the S&P 500, we're talking about an average annual return of, around 10% over the long haul. So right out of the gate, the potential is heavily weighted in their favor. But there is one massive catch. One person starts investing at age 20, the other person waits and starts at age 40. By the time they both hit retirement, the difference in their wealth isn't just a little gap, it is absolutely devastating. Welcome to the brutal mathematics of time. Let's dive right into this explainer. To really grasp this, we have to establish an absolute level playing field. We've got investor A starting at 20 and investor B starting at 40, and we're making the conditions painfully simple here. Both people invest exactly $1,000. Same stock market, same exact average return year over year, and they leave it completely untouched. There's no genius stock picking happening here, no lucky crypto runs skewing the data, no wild option strategies, absolutely no inherited wealth, and no secret business empires. It's the exact same money, the exact same market, and the exact same effort. We've literally isolated all the variables down to just one single thing. Just time. That's it. Time is the ultimate silent multiplier. It doesn't care how smart you are, it doesn't care what college you went to, and it sure doesn't care how hard you hustle at your day job. It just sits there, quietly doing its thing in the background. Take a second and really let the absolute simplicity of that sink in. Just time. Section 1. The illusion of slow growth, or why the early years feel entirely invisible. So, to really understand how this plays out, we need to look at the first 20 years for our young investor, from age 20 up to age 40. And looking at this timeline shows exactly why people get so discouraged. Because at first, almost nothing happens. The money grows so boringly slowly that it's actually painful to watch. Imagine being 25 years old. You log into your brokerage account and your hard-earned investment has grown just enough to, maybe buy you a decent sandwich? Meanwhile, your friends are financing new cars, they're taking expensive trips, they're showing off all these immediate purchases. It's incredibly demoralizing. By age 30, it's still moving at this frustratingly slow crawl. Even as you approach 40, the raw growth can still look pretty minimal compared to what you originally put in. And this agonizingly slow start is exactly why most people just ignore investing when they're young. They put their cash in, wait a couple of years, see hardly any movement, and think, is that really it? Why am I even bothering? And, it taps into a very real psychological hurdle that pretty much all of us face. When you're 20, retirement feels fake, distant, like something that belongs to another version of you. And it's true, right? It feels like a completely different universe. Why on earth would you sacrifice your hard-earned money today for some stranger living 40 years in the future? It's so incredibly easy to just focus on other things, on social media, on keeping up with the latest trends, on instant gratification. Building wealth just feels way too abstract. And because the early math is so deeply unrewarding, we just convince ourselves, I'll deal with it later. Which brings us to section 2, the heavy cost of waiting and the delayed start. So this delayed start is exactly where our 40-year-old investor finally decides to jump into the market. But they're stepping into a dynamic that has radically changed for the 20-year-old. See, compound interest has a very weird personality. It starts out super quiet, as we just saw, almost like a tiny snowball packing together at the very top of a huge hill. But then, time starts multiplying itself. The snowball starts rolling. It suddenly gets aggressive. And why does it do that? Because the growth starts growing on top of its own growth. It's no longer just your original $1,000 making money, it's your invisible earnings making their own earnings, and then those earnings making even more. Albert Einstein supposedly called compound interest the eighth wonder of the world, and honestly, this is exactly why. Right around the time the 20-year-old hits age 40, their investment just explodes upward. It hits critical mass. But the 40-year-old, they're just now packing their little snowball at the very top of the hill. Section 3. The brutal mathematical reveal. The absolute climax of compounding. When the dust finally settles at retirement age, the sheer visual disparity between these two paths is just undeniable. By the time they both hit 65, the person who started at age 20, investor A, ends up sitting on this massive pile of wealth, right around $117,000. Now, contrast that with investor B, the person who waited until they were 40. They end up with a tiny, dwarfed sum of only about $18,000. Think about that for a second. Same exact money, same exact market, same exact effort, but 20 years of difference in when they decided to start. That missing time creates a gap of nearly $100,000. $100,000! Let's put that into perspective. That is a substantial down payment on a house. That is a child's entire college fund. That is years of financial freedom and breathing room in retirement, literally just evaporated into thin air. And the terrifying part about this staggering gap, it has absolutely nothing to do with intelligence. It has nothing to do with income or natural talent or working way harder than the next person. It is purely 100% about time. While the 20-year-old's money was skyrocketing off its own momentum, the 40-year-old's investment barely had enough runway to even begin compounding before the clock simply ran out. Section 4. The only unrecoverable asset, the emotional truth. Moving beyond all the cold, hard mathematics of the charts, this is honestly the part nobody tells you when you're young. Just think about all the things in life you can actually recover from. Bad decisions, lost money, terrible investments, career restarts. Almost every financial or professional mistake in your life can be rebuilt. You can make a totally boneheaded financial choice in your 20s, and you can always earn your money back. Your bad stock picks can eventually recover, or you can just pivot to something else entirely. You can lose your job, restart your career completely from scratch, and still reach the top of your field. You can fix these things. You always have the power to course correct. But time never refunds itself. Time is the most valuable financial asset you will ever have. Not just because it sounds important in some philosophical sense, but because it disappears so quietly. You don't even notice it leaving until it's completely gone. It is the single asset you can never, ever buy back, no matter how much money you eventually make. The ultimate empowering truth is this: the people who build wealth the fastest usually aren't the smartest. They simply started before everyone else felt ready. Because in the world of investing, waiting is incredibly expensive. Compound interest isn't really just about the money. It's about taking action way before you have it all figured out. So if you're young right now, please do not underestimate how incredibly powerful even the smallest investments can become if you just give them the runway they need. And hey, if you're older and you feel like you started late, remember that the second best time to start is right now. You just have to plant the seed and let whatever time you have left do its absolute best work. So, as we reflect on these two parallel lives in the undeniable power of compounding, I want to leave you with one final question to ask yourself. What age did you first start thinking seriously about money?